you will absolutely pay up. And it is true, if you fly out on a Tuesday, you will save an average of at least 8% on your ticket. So book in advance. There are certain days of week that will play to your favor. And on Priceline, you can do things like mix and match airlines. Go out on one airline, come back on another. That typically can lead to savings of, almost 10% if you're careful in how you plan. So those types of changes can take off 20 to 30% of your trip if you're careful in how you plan.
But who wants to fly on a Tuesday?
I don't know.
That's the question.
Exactly.
That's right. I guess that's why it is so much cheaper. Brett Keller, CEO of Priceline. Brett, thanks for taking some time and sticking with us for a little extra time this afternoon. It was great to get a good chunk of minutes with you today. Brett joining us via Zoom from Norwalk, Connecticut, so you might have seen him right there on YouTube. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio, taking a look at the way that markets closed out the month. It was not a pretty one. The S&P 500 down 4.2%, the NASDAQ down 4.6%. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week, and this is Bloomberg Radio. Let's get to Washington, D.C. now for an update on world and national news. For that, we go to Nancy Lyons.
Thanks, Tim. The Department of Justice argues in a new court filing appointing a special master to review documents seized at Donald Trump's home would be a threat to national security. Bloomberg government's Jack Fitzpatrick says the filing also raises the possibility of obstruction by the Trump team.
The FBI actually visited Mar-a-Lago in June ahead of that August 8th search warrant. We were told by Trump's lawyers after that June meeting that they had handed over all the relevant documents. That clearly was not true.
Bloomberg government's Jack Fitzpatrick. The judge overseeing the special master request will hear arguments tomorrow. Bloomberg is hearing from people familiar with the situation that prosecutors would wait until after the midterm elections to announce any charges if warranted. The FDA has cleared a new version of Pfizer's vaccine for adults and kids over 12 and Moderna's modified shot for adults who are over 18. Both are vaccines that target the original strain of the virus as well as the newer substrains. New gun laws take effect in New York this week following the June Supreme Court decision striking down a 100-year-old state law restricting who can carry a weapon. This is Governor Kathy Hochul.
These will strengthen the background checks, the gun safety training requirements, prohibit concealed carry in secure, sensitive locations, and require permit renewals every 3 years instead of 5 years.
Governor Hochul says new location restrictions for concealed carry take effect tomorrow and will include Times Square in New York City. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
Thank you so much for that update, Nancy Lyons. Tim Stanovic and Katie Greifeld live from New York City right now. A great story in Bloomberg Business Week written by Molly Smith that came out today is all about how U.S. women who stay single and don't have kids are actually getting wealthier. Foregoing marriage and parenthood has a bigger payoff for American women than for men, this according to new research.
This is interesting. Let's talk about the lead of this story. Ashley Marrero, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, isn't married and doesn't have kids, and she has a message for women just like her. You can have it all.
Go ahead, Katie.
No, you go on, Tim.
The 43-year-old feels a deep sense of satisfaction from her job as a sales rep for a maker of medical devices, which brings her into contact with patients, and she relishes all of the lifestyle and financial freedoms that come with being a single, child-free woman in a well-paying job. It includes an apartment in New York City, a new beach house on the Jersey Shore, and frequent travel for pleasure as well as work.
When I think of having it all, though, I think about having a family.
Everybody has a different definition of really what it means to have it all.
This is true.
She did say, and she told Molly Smith, who wrote this story, that she froze her eggs back in 2018 to keep her options open. She loves kids. She loves her friends' kids, but she doesn't know if she would love her life with kids.
So we have some numbers here. Single women without kids had an average of $65,000 in wealth in 2019. That is compared to $57,000 for single child-free men. That is according to new research from the St. Louis Fed. For single mothers, the figure was only $7,000, Tim.
Wow. That's a huge, huge difference. Hey, this is part of a bigger conversation, Katie, that we've been having about the cost of raising kids. There was that story last week that came out that says on average in the U.S. it takes, almost 2 weeks ago actually, it takes $18,000 a year to raise a kid. It ends up costing over $300,000 over the lifetime. In the U.S. it is just so expensive to have kids. And there are a lot of questions that policymakers have about why people aren't having more kids and why we're seeing a declining birth rate here in the U.S. And I think a big part of it has to do with the expense associated with it. Check out this story and more on the Bloomberg Terminal and at Bloomberg.com. Bloomberg Radio is available wherever you are. You can listen on the Bloomberg Business, iHeart, and TuneIn apps, as well as on SiriusXM, Bloomberg.com, and on the Bloomberg Terminal by typing RADI-GO.
This is Tom Keene. And I'm Jonathan Ferro. Join us tomorrow morning for Bloomberg Surveillance.
After ADP, jobless claims, and then the nation's labor economy on Friday, we have Jean Baudin of BlackRock, and then on oil, and Rita Sen, Energy Aspects, Director of Research.
Bloomberg Surveillance starting at 7 a.m. on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
And watch us on Bloomberg Television, Xfinity Channel 1122.
Everyone knows how beneficial therapy can be, but traditional therapy can be overwhelming, confusing, and inconvenient. When scheduling in-person therapy, it can be difficult to find the right therapist near you, and it can take weeks to get on their calendar. We knew there had to be a better way, and that's where BetterHelp began. I'm Danny, co-founder of BetterHelp Online Therapy. When Alana and I started BetterHelp in 2013, our mission was simple: find a way to make professional therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient for everyone. BetterHelp works around your schedule and lifestyle. You can connect to a therapist by phone, video call, or even text message. You don't even have to turn on your camera if you don't feel comfortable. And if your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch anytime with the click of a button, because BetterHelp is designed with you in mind. See why over 2 million members have trusted BetterHelp for online therapy. Go to betterhelp.com/healthieryou and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/healthieryou for 10% off your first month.
At Bloomberg, we believe in the power of ideas. That's why we launched Bloomberg New Economy Catalyst. It's a community of global leaders and innovators who are blazing new trails to transform business and government. This platform will help them share their ideas with the world and provide access to the resources they need to bring them to life. Bold thinking, breakthrough action. Learn more at BloombergNewEconomy.com/catalyst.
It's 4:45 on Wall Street. Time for drive time traffic. We do it every 15 minutes right here on Bloomberg Radio. Ed Kalegi, 22 in Westchester. What's going on?
22 in Westchester, we go to Armont because 22 is closed both ways right now. Tim, by King Street, there's a downed wire. Actually, there are several downed wires, and that's why the road is shut down. And it's a pretty busy road in that area, and that's why traffic there is quite slow. Now in Manhattan, it's a very heavy ride both sides of town. West side has been slow from the 90s up to the 130s for quite a while. Northbound, the FDR, it's going to take you 37 minutes to go from 71st Street to the RFK, and then budget a lot more time because the Harlem River Drive is slow all the way on up. Holland Tunnel 30 out, 10 in from 1 to 9, 30 out, 10 from the Lincoln Tunnel. Inbound George Washington Bridge, 20 up, 15 down. Bloomberg 1130, 3-day weather. Tonight, clear, low 65 to 70. Thursday, sunny skies, highs 80 to 85. Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 80. And Saturday, sunshine, high 80 to 85. Right now, mostly sunny, and we are at 84 degrees. This report is sponsored by Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. The brand new Galaxy Z Flip 4 is finally here with a sleek, foldable design that lets you make your device conveniently compact. Visit Samsung.com to order your Galaxy Z Flip 4. The best ride in and out of the city. I'm Ed Kalegi. This is Bloomberg 1130. Bloomberg Business Week continues.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Turned out to be a down day for the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ as we move on to the trading month of September. S&P today down 31, finishing the month of 39.55, a drop today of about 0.8%. Now, for the month of August, we saw the S&P 500 index fall by about 4.2%. The Dow today down 280, a decline of 0.9%. NASDAQ down 67, a drop today of 0.6%. All major U.S. indexes had their worst month since June. 10-year yield 3.19%, 2-year yield 3.49%, spot gold 17.10 the ounce, down 0.8%. West Texas Intermediate crude down 3.1%, 88.83 per barrel of WTI. Headline from the Bloomberg Professional Service. Walt Disney is said to be exploring an Amazon Prime-like membership program. This according to Dow Jones, which says that program would offer discounts and perks. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much for that update, Charlie Pellet. Well, after Jamie Fiore-Higgins was promoted inside Goldman Sachs, the veteran she replaced pinned her to the wall of their New York office and lifted her by the jaw. At a work conference, one of her bosses at the bank propositioned her. When she got up from her desk in Goldman's headquarters to pump milk for her fourth child, a longtime trader mooed at her. These are some of the allegations she makes in a memoir called Bully Market, My Story of Money and Misogyny at Goldman Sachs. It's a new book which just came out yesterday. Jamie Fiore-Higgins joins us now on the phone from New York City. Jamie, I do want to note that a spokesperson for Goldman Sachs said in an email statement that, quote, "We strongly disagree with Ms. Higgins' characterization of Goldman Sachs' culture, and we decline to respond to anonymized allegations." Jamie, it's good to have you with us this afternoon. What was the moment that you realized you needed to write this book?
It's interesting. I left Goldman in the spring of 2016, and truth be told, I was incredibly depressed. For me, being a managing director at Goldman Sachs was how I identified myself and, in the world. And without it, I felt quite lost. And I was really fortunate that I was able to take some time off, and I spent some time with friends, with my family, with my kids. And I got to know some women, and they asked me why I left my company. And so I started just telling them stories, and one of the stories, as you brought up, I talked about getting mooed at like a cow, and their reaction was so incredulous that I started to really see it in a clearer light, just how toxic the environment was. And that, coupled with the social justice movements that were happening, I saw that there's really an appetite and an interest for hearing true stories. And so I decided to write mine to shed some light on the importance of workplace equality, inspire conversation, create some change. And I did not help a lot of women when I was there. And I feel like in some ways this book is a way for me to make amends.
Well, Jamie, that's what I want to talk about. How unique your experience as a woman was. What sense do you have of that?
So at Goldman Sachs. So it's really interesting. With all the media that has been reporting on the book, I'm getting now hundreds of messages every day in DMs on my various social accounts, really showing me that my story is not unique, that I might be the one speaking up, but I'm speaking for many. And the stories have been incredibly descriptive, from women who had the same issues with breastfeeding to women who have called out inappropriate things at HR and were punished, to women who feel like they don't get opportunities that the men get. So it's very clear to me that although some progress has been made, there's still a ways to go.
Hey, Jamie, I'm wondering about how you've essentially switched careers at this point and what you're doing now, and how your experience contributed earlier on in your career, contributed to what you're doing right now as a coach that works with teams to help when it comes to leadership skills and people early on in their careers.
Yeah, and so for me, I always wanted to be a social worker. So this has been such an amazing opportunity for me to marry that long-held wish with my practical experience, and really helping empower people to advocate for themselves at work, demand to get what they were promised, that are promised in, the employee handbook, and giving them the confidence to walk away. For me, I felt like I was stuck there, like I was in a prison, but the truth was, it was a prison in my mind. I was able to walk away, but Goldman Sachs and other large, powerful firms are very good at convincing people that you're nothing without them, nothing without their name, nothing without their money. So I'm really trying to show my clients that there's an abundance of opportunity in the world. And if they're not feeling seen and heard, if they don't feel like they can look at themselves in the mirror, being in the companies that are, then they need to walk away.
Jamie, I'd love to hear your thoughts on when it comes to the banking industry, when it comes to the finance industry broadly, you mentioned there's still a ways to go. And when it comes to changing the culture of an industry, where do you think that needs to start? And is it realistic to even think that the culture will meaningfully change?
I want to be hopeful. I think the new crop of entrants in the workplace want more. Firms like Goldman have amazing stats for hiring women, BIPOC, LGBTQ+. The problem is there isn't a focus on retaining them. So they're excellent at bringing them in the door. They're not excellent at getting them to stay. So I would like to see these firms have pickier careers where people want to remain there. And I think if you have these goals for hiring, let's get them the same goals at the managing director level, at the partner level. I think if you really have diverse populations at all levels of the firm, you have a chance to counteract the kind of majority viewpoint in the corner office that everyone has to assimilate to currently to be successful.
Hey, Jamie, working with people early in their careers right now, I'm curious what you would say to somebody who came to you and said, you know what, even knowing, what I've read in your book, the allegations that you make in there, I still want to go work in finance. What advice would you give them?
So finance is a big world. There's an abundance of opportunity. So I think of careers as like a pie. You have your passion, you have your compensation, you have your flexibility. So really, for new entrants, let's go in with our eyes wide open about the experience. Part of the problem I think some of these companies have is that they promise one thing and like on the C-suite level, and on the day-to-day things don't happen. So really read the fine print. Do your research. See what the company experience is like. And then figure out what you're willing to deal with. I mean, listen, some people might say, you know what, it's not a great environment. Well, that's okay. Then we can work on tactical ways to, manage that day to day. But I am a firm believer, at Goldman Sachs, there was a big scarcity mindset. Like there was never enough. There was never enough opportunity. You had to constantly earn your seat every day. There was no time to rest. You were always proving yourself. I want people to be able to say there's an abundance of opportunity. If you're passionate about finance, you can do that in a lot of different places. You can do that at corporations where you feel like your values are aligned with the firm. You don't have to settle.
Jamie Fiore-Higgins, former Goldman Sachs managing director, author of the new book, came out this week. It's called Bully Market, My Story of Money and Misogyny at Goldman Sachs. Joining us this afternoon on the phone from New York City. Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time. Well, it is the final trading day of the month, and it was not a pretty one. The S&P 500 finishing the day down by close to 0.8%. That's put its August performance at 4.24% to the downside. The NASDAQ Composite finishing the day down by 0.5 percentage point, down by 4.6% for the month of August. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average finishing the day down by 0.9%, putting it solidly in the 4% decline level as well. So all three major indices closing lower by 4%. Katie Greifeld, a big thank you to you for holding down the fort in New York City while I anchor from Brooklyn. We'll be back live tomorrow at 2 o'clock. A big thank you from the entire team here at Bloomberg Business Week. This is Bloomberg Radio. Don't miss Sound On with Joe Matthew today at 5 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio. Joe speaks to former U.S. Deputy Attorney General Donald Iyer on Donald Trump's potential legal trouble. That's Sound On today at 5 on Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by Geico. Employee resource groups play a pivotal role in business, and to talk about it, let's bring in Leslie Sladen-Brown, Chief Diversity Officer at HP. What unique position do you see ERG's occupying in business?
When I think about the hybrid workplace that we're in, the challenges that we face today, the employee resource groups are very critical to building an inclusive community with a great sense of belongingness.
Tell us how HP is doing this and the 10-year strategy that HP has built, including culture, talent, and sustainable impact as the foundation.
The vision for HP is to become the most sustainable and just technology company in the world. When I came into this role, my goal was always to embed DEI into everything that we do. We want to get to 50-50 gender equity by 2030, double our Black and African American senior leadership, and the employee resource groups help with all of that.
I'm Bloomberg's Renita Young on the Black Business Beat.
It's It's 4:58 on Wall Street. Time for drive time traffic. We do it every 15 minutes right here on Bloomberg Radio. Ed Kalegi, 80 in New Jersey. What's going on?
Tim, 80 eastbound coming in by Route 202. That's exit 42 and exit 1 lane in is blocked. 10 minutes over from exit 39 in Denville westbound. Everybody does